What's going on, guys? Brandon Lewis here with the Tennessee Conservative News Big 7. Boy, 8 conservatives trounced RINOs in Tennessee. We've got the good and the bad and the ugly with the election results I'm going to bring you. We've got stories about corporate special interest money flooding into the state of Tennessee to help liberal Republicans and a lot more. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be a little bleary-eyed because I stayed up way late at the Michelle RINO election watch party where she trounced Patsy Hazelwood. And before I get into the news stories, I want to talk about that race just a little bit. Here's the deal. When you're an incumbent in Tennessee, even if you're the most powerful person in the Tennessee House who sits on the Finance Committee, even if you outspend somebody 10-1, even if you lie about them like Patsy Hazelwood did about Michelle RINO, if you've got a crappy voting record and you vote to give free college tuition to illegal aliens and for sanctuary cities, and you vote to give professional licenses to illegal aliens and everything else that the woman did, you vote against bills that will ban and reduce abortions in the state of Tennessee, etc., giving away corporate welfare, you will get beat. If you got a good candidate, you got a good strategy, you will get beat. And that's exactly what happened in this David and Goliath story with Michelle RINO and Patsy Hazelwood. I'm very proud of Michelle and each and every one of you that gave $1, that knocked on a door, that went to an event, that texted a friend, that called a neighbor. You're the reason. You're the reason it happened. So thank you all for getting involved in that race. More about that specifically later. I may write a piece, which I rarely do. Guys, let's talk about what happened last night. We had some bright spots, but it ain't all bright spots, okay? I'm going to tell you the truth like I always do. I don't sugarcoat things. I don't have a reputation for sugarcoating things. So let's get into it. 8 conservatives trounced RINOs in Tennessee state elections. In the past few years, Tennessee voters have become increasingly aware of the importance of state-level elections, and thanks to the reporting of the Tennessee conservative and advocacy groups all across our wonderful volunteer state, with the knowledge of the voting records of establishment incumbents claiming to be conservatives, and boy, did these RINOs claim to be conservative all through their campaigns. You can tell that a RINO is lying when their lips are moving. Claiming to be conservatives, many real Tennessee conservatives have stepped up to challenge the status quo. And while there are a few true conservatives that are incumbent, we have some, we're going to talk about them in a minute, the vast majority of those in the Tennessee House of Representatives and the Senate, frankly, need to be replaced. They do. As a result, several Tennessee districts will now have more conservative representation in the Capitol, however, with a huge outside PAC money influencing these elections. And boy, was the outside special interest money from these leftist corporations just pouring in for these liberal Republicans, along with endorsements. Could you imagine someone endorsing at any level Patsy Hazelwood's voting record, the worst in the state? And boy, all these RINOs just coalesce together to do it. And it happens every time people run for office. It's disgusting. It's disingenuous. I don't see how people go home at night claiming to be a Republican and stand behind some of these people. So here are the GOP primary election results. Note, we have not listed the winners of GOP primaries where the candidates had no GOP challengers or the incumbent was a sole GOP candidate win. So first one, conservative wins in the Tennessee Senate. Somebody I gave some money to and tried to help, Bobby Harshbarger. Congratulations, buddy. John Lundberg sucks. I'm glad you beat him. He needs to be beat, needs to be gotten rid of, and you got rid of him. Congratulations to you. And Caleb, I hope your name's Caleb, if I remember it correctly, great work on that campaign, buddy. Shout out to you. All right, other things. So, conservative disappointments in the Tennessee Senate, and we had mainly disappointments. Tom Hatcher wins against conservative Brian Ritchie, but Brian Ritchie didn't run a race. It just flummoxes me. I can't believe it. I think he would have won if he had ran. He did not run. He put his name on the ballot and did nothing, which surprised me, but that's what happened. Incumbent Becky Massey wins over Tennessee conservative pick Monica Irvine. Monica, honey, you did a good job. You worked real hard. Sometimes you got to run twice to win. You got a list now. You've probably got some donors. People have heard your name. Sometimes you got to two-step this stuff. So I would encourage you, Monica, run again. Primary challenger Jesse Seal wins over conservative pick incumbent Frank Nicely. This is one of the worst blows to conservatism. And I'm going to talk about some of the bad actors that played a part in this here later. And I'm going to actually send out some emails to conservative grassroots groups and people like you, our subscribers, so they know what's really going on. There are groups that spent money against Frank Nicely that claim to be conservative or pretend to be conservative in this state, and they are not. Frank Nicely was consistently conservative. The chances that Jesse Seal, is that his name? Jesse, if you're out there, I hope you are. But boy, you're going to have some big shoes to fill. If you're just another establishment shill and you want to climb that ladder, chances are we're going to end up with a worse person than what we had. Todd Gardenhire wins over Ed LeCompte. Ed LeCompte did not run much of a race. It's no surprise that Todd won. Incumbent Ken Yeager wins over Tennessee pick Tina Hedrick. I saw Tina last week. Tina, again, Ken ain't going to live forever. Get in there the next time. Incumbent Ferrell Haile, which this one was probably one of the most surprising ones to me because his record's terrible. Ferrell Haile's record's terrible. Wins over Tennessee conservative pick Chris Spencer. Chris, you ran a good race. You ran a good race. You can hold your head high, buddy. I mean that. Incumbent John Stevens wins over Tennessee conservative pick Charlie Cooper. Back to the Ferrell Haile race. The thing that I like about some of these losses, in some ways, they are Pyrrhic victories for the establishment. Pyrrhic victories. I bet, I don't know what the numbers are yet, but we're going to get into it later. We'll report on this. I think Chris Spencer was outspent 15, 16, 20 to 1. 20 to 1. And Chris Spencer still picks up 40% of the vote. I mean, these guys dumped more money in these state rep and these state senate races than I've ever seen in my entire political career as an observer, as a paid professional, working on campaigns. They dumped all their money. Now, the bad news is left-leaning corporate money is all that funds the GOP establishment, and it floods in all the time. But it does take a little time, energy, and effort to collect it. And so a lot of these state house people that spend all their money, they're going to have a little bit harder time getting it back in the kitty before the next 2 years, which makes them vulnerable. And people remember. Occasionally, people remember from one election to the next. And a lot of these guys won, but they got bad records, and somebody can run against them again. Let's go on with it here. Conservative wins. Whoo! Jason, we should have put the conservative wins in front of the disappointments. But let me end on a high note, maybe. Conservative pick Renee Jones wins against Kurt Alexander. Tennessee conservative pick Michelle RINO. Oh, that was a beautiful victory. Wins over Patsy Hazelwood. That's the only race that I was intimately involved in. I gave as much as I could, gave as much advice as I could, got as many resources together. But boy, that was a team effort. That was a team effort. You should have felt the energy in the room last night. I mean, just phenomenal. The hand of God coming down. It's amazing. It's amazing. Hats off to Michelle RINO. Fantastic. I'll tell you more about that later. I don't want to make the whole show about that. Incumbent Tennessee conservative Tim Rudd wins against Tucker Markham. Tim Rudd's pretty conservative. I don't agree with him every time, but I'd rather have Tim Rudd in there than whoever the hell this guy is. Here we got conservative pick Scott Sapicki wins against Ray Jeter. Congratulations, Scott. I'm sure you had to run through the finish line on that one. Jody Barrett, very conservative, wins against Ronnie George. Incumbent Tennessee conservative pick Chris Todd wins against Jimmy Harris. Chris Todd is a good guy. And then conservative Rusty Grills wins against James T. Bubba Cobb. If you can't beat a man named Bubba Cobb, who can you beat? I forgot to tell y'all, go to Gab, Getter, Truth, MeWe, and Rumble. Hit the subscribe button, whatever it is you're supposed to do. And if you appreciate what we do here at the Tennessee Conservative, telling you the truth that the mainstream media will not, that the establishment incumbents will not, that the GOP establishment won't, that the corporations want, Go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support. Give us some money. Give us some money. Mail your checks to P.O. Box 625, Signal Mountain, Tennessee 37377. Why aren't there more conservative media outlets, Brandon? Because conservatives are cheap and they hang on to every damn dollar like they're never going to see another one. If we were generous, if conservatives were generous with conservative media and conservative organizations and conservative candidates, instead of miserly, we wouldn't have these damn results like we have here. We wouldn't have it. Don't be one of those people. Don't be the part of the 94% that just rides along and hopes somebody else does something. Give your time and your money. I'll say it once and I'm moving on. I can always tell if you're a conservative or not by looking at two things: your bank account and your calendar. If you've spent no time, no money doing anything that's going to practically make a difference in your state and local government, and if it goes to hell, you've got yourself to blame. Conservative disappointments in the Tennessee House. Moving on. Fred actually wins against Larry Linton. Larry is a good conservative. Thank you for running. An incumbent, Robert Stevens, wins against conservative Jamie Averwater. Ken Raper wins against Troy Weathers, unfortunately. Ron Travis wins against Richard W. Smith. Rick Scarborough wins against John Reagan. Now that's the worst one. That's the worst one. Anybody who spent money trying to oust Frank Nicely, John Reagan, you're on my you-know-what list. I will never, ever, ever have anything to do with you again. This is terrible. We don't have enough conservatives in the House or the Senate to be replacing them. There's hardly any as it is. Rick, I hope you end up being conservative. I hope you do. And if you are, I'll be behind you. But boy, we got a bunch of ladder climbers, a bunch of corporately funded shills up there. Paul Sherrill wins against Robert McCormick. Man, that was a close one. Lee Reeves wins against Brian Bethard, I don't know his names. And conservative pick Michelle Foreman. I thought Michelle would be the best candidate in that race. Lee won. I hope he's conservative. And if he is, over time, his record will tell. Incumbent Mary Littleton wins against conservative Justin Spurlock. Joe Smith wins against Carol Duffin. We got a few more here. Tom Stennett wins against Nick Bright. Richard W. Smith, Ron Travis. These are other primary results that we just really didn't pick a winner or a loser. Ron Travis wins against Richard W. Smith. Chad Bobo wins against Christopher Huff. Norman, are you related to that guy? I mean, how many Bobos can there be? Incumbent John Gillespie wins against Christina Oppenhusen. Try to put that on a campaign sign. And then finally, a good one here that I'm proud to report. If you're listening, Andy, let me know. Rick, Tennessee conservative pick Andy Ogles wins over candidate Courtney Johnston. I'm going to dig into this one too and figure out who got behind Courtney. Always a bunch of RINOs. You know why people go against conservatives? Let me talk about a few things here. First, I want to get something off my chest that I'm later going to go into further detail with. If you're a conservative grassroots leader, if you're a conservative in general, you need to stay the hell away from Americans for Prosperity and anything connected with them. They worked against so many conservatives this race. I cannot believe it. And you know what? I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I think we have far too much conservative infighting and not enough unity. And so when I disagree with people on an issue or a candidate, I try to move on. There'll be another issue. There'll be another candidate, right? A little bit of conservative unity wouldn't kill us. But when you spend money, time, and effort trying to unseat the handful of the few conservatives we have because you're angry or your corporate structure, I mean, most of these people that work for Americans for Prosperity are probably nice enough people. They're feeding their family off this organization's money. But they don't make any decisions. Everybody in Americans for Prosperity Tennessee just takes marching orders from the top. And the marching orders from the top were terrible this time around. I wouldn't work for that organization. It's an embarrassment. And one time I talked to Tori, and Tori said, "Well, you got to remember, we're not a conservative organization. We're nonpartisan organization. Those words have never been truer than today. So if you're a conservative grassroots leader, and those people call and say, can we come to your meeting? Can we show up? I would show them the door. The door. Terrible. Embarrassing. Betrayal. Betrayal. I mean, the only people they ever have help them at Americans for Prosperity are conservatives. They may have all the money in the world, and they may have a big staff, but they can sit in their offices by themselves if conservatives decide they're not going to have anything to do with them. And I think that's what they should do. More on that later. We're going to get into it in the rest of this news story. Whew, here we go. Tennessee Senate RINO leadership spends big to boost campaigns of Ferrell, Haile, and John Lundberg. A trio of Republicans led by Randy McNally, awful, has spent nearly $900,000 on the campaigns of Senator Ferrell, Haile, and John Lundberg, who are up against primary challengers Chris Spencer and Bobby Harshbarger. Chris lost, Bobby won, in races that could determine the next leader of the Tennessee Senate. McNally has held his speaker post for nearly 8 years despite his health issues and mental health issues. I mean, the guy talks sometimes on camera and you're like, this guy's not all here. He's like Joe Biden. Randy McNally's about like Joe Biden cognitively. He's probably sharper, far sharper than Joe, but he ain't too many steps behind him. And why these Senate Republicans keep putting people into power that are A, liberal, and B, senile, I don't understand. Anyway, that popped up last year, articles revealed he frequently commented on racy Instagram pictures of a young gay man from Knoxville, the Republican. As your Republicans, people, leadership. McNally is up for re-election in the Senate in 2026. Somebody please run against this animated corpse. Somebody that's good. McNally's up for re-election in 2026. One contender to potentially take his place is Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson. If the governor carried a bill that every Tennessee family should put their firstborn child on the steps and the government would take them, Jack would happily carry that bill. Yes, sir. He'd carry any bill just to climb the ladder. Whose political action committee has spent nearly $200,000 to help Lundberg, but none backing Haile. Johnson's money spent on independent expenditures such as advertisement aims to boost. Jack Johnson spent money trying to help Lundberg? That's how you know he's not a conservative. Hale's biggest supporter has been McNally's PAC, spent almost $400,000 in independent expenditures and support. McNally PAC has received $100,000 in contributions from the Senate. Republican caucus chairman Ken Yeager's PAC in the most recent filing. This year, Senate Speaker PAC almost spent $300,000 to support Lundberg. I'm glad all that money was completely and totally wasted, you POS. Chairman of the Senate Education Committee, an ardent supporter of private school voucher plan, which is backed by Haile and McNally. Next story. Big PAC money is being spent to influence Tennessee elections by attacking the state's most conservative candidates. Any other newscast, this would have been the lead story. Several candidates across the state have received substantial amounts of money from PACs, 4 PACs in particular involved, Americans for Prosperity. Never let them darken the door of your organization again. You'll never see them having anything to do with me. That's for sure. School Freedom Fund, Teen Kid PAC, and American Federation for Children. Now American Federation for Children. Shaka? I didn't know this. This is bad news. American Federation for Children. Listen, conservatives didn't want that crappy Frankenstein omnibus bill. Democrats didn't want it either. When the governor puts together a crappy proposal and people don't like it, but you want to get rid of them because of their conservative over one issue that was poorly presented, poorly done, and if it had gone through, it would have been a train wreck. That's how I know your heart's not in the right place. For just 8 of those candidates, 3 incumbents and 5 primary challengers, between those 4 PACs alone, a total of $5,100,016.162 has been spent. $5 million. As of July 22nd, or just under $915,000 was spent on Lee Reeves. Well, I guess if somebody spends $1 million on your state rep race, maybe you can win. Just under $898,000 on John Lundberg. Set that money on fire. Just over $778,000 for Aaron Mayberry and $688,000 on Jesse Seal. Jesse Seal to unseat Frank Nicely. Awful. Awful. American Federation for Children, another organization you should not support. $628,000 for Jason Emmerich, $546,000 on Tom Hatcher, and almost $537,000 on Ferrell Haile, and just shy of $128,000 on Scott Spickey. Guys, closed circuit transmission to all of you people in the Tennessee House and Senate that these bastards came after and you won. Don't ever let them come in your office again. Don't ever vote for anything that they're pushing. Have a long memory. I do. None of these candidates enjoy the support of Tennessee grassroots. Not a damn one of them. The reason the candidates are reportedly receiving so much money is what's called dark money from PACs has all to do with a single issue, school vouchers. We just need a no strings attached tax rebate for people that have school-age children that don't use these crappy government schools that Republicans have put together. They're babysitting government indoctrination camps masquerading as education. They're failing. But what we don't need is a school voucher plan that comes in and ruins homeschooling, private schools, and Christian schools with a bunch of strings attached. Just give people back their damn money. It's easy. Why hadn't anybody thought of this? Why am I the only human in the state of Tennessee that's involved in politics that seems to understand that when you try to provide a service to somebody and you suck at providing that service, you just need to give them the money back you charge for the service. Done. Easy. No strings. You could write this bill in 2 sentences. No. The government wants to have their hands in everything. They've already screwed up education that they've ran, so now they want to go find something else to screw up. Included in the expenses is always a lot of opposition media, which most commonly manifests as mailers. That garbage Patsy Hazelwood sent out against Michelle RINO, I don't get to see all the mail. I'm sure there's terrible, just lies. Lies and personal slanders, insults. And the GOP establishment here in Hamilton County got all behind it. All behind it. I hope every one of those people has egg on their face this morning. Those aren't conservatives. Anybody that endorsed Patsy Hazelwood is not a conservative. You cannot endorse the person in the Tennessee House with the worst record in the House and then call yourself conservative. You may be a Republican, but you're not a conservative. And don't ever claim you are. And I had some big disappointments. There are people that endorse Patsy Hazelwood. I sent them the record. I'm like, this is what you stand for? This is what you think the party platform is? Some of Tennessee's most conservative legislators and candidates have been targeted by PACs. Other groups claiming to be conservatives, like Tennessee for Liberty. It's just names to them. They don't believe in any of this stuff. The founding, independence, individual freedom, small government, reducing the size of government, power. Power, influence, regulation. That's what they believe in. Hit pieces and ads have been put out in opposition to conservative candidates Michelle Foreman, Michelle RINO, Brian Ritchie, and conservative incumbents Todd Warner and Frank Nicely. All right, here we go. Governor Lee is fine. What a POS. Guy put more small businesses out of business than anybody in Tennessee state history. Trounced our constitutional rights during COVID. Was wrong on almost every single solitary issue related to that thing. Worst governor. And now because he has sucked so bad for so long and done so little aside from handing out lots of corporate welfare money, he's like, well, gosh, if I get out of here and I hadn't done at least something that's worth a hoot, what about my legacy? I don't give a rip about your legacy. How about some results? But Governor Lee is fine with outside PAC money flowing into Tennessee because he uses it too, right? He's just a corporate shill. Governor Lee has made his position known on outside PACs donating big dollars to specific candidates to influence Tennessee's elections. It's fine so long as those candidates are receiving money for his universal crappy school voucher plan. However, much of the, quote, information being proliferated by these large PACs are mischaracterizations of the truth or outright lies. In almost every case, you look at this crap that they put out, it's disgusting. Closed circuit transmission, Ward Baker, Bob, what's your name? Davis, if you're still around, you ran a real crappy campaign for Hazelwood, Bob. A blind midget could have spent that money better. I can't believe people still hire you. You suck. Terrible. These people, they're just the lies. I mean, how do you go home to your kids and your grandkids at night? What'd you do all day, Grandpa? What'd you do all day, Daddy? I lied. I took money and lied to a bunch of people about somebody. Oh, great, Dad. I'm so happy. I mean, you just have some kind of part in your brain where you just cognitively cut off your humanity. I'm sorry. I'm not going to shut up about this. For example, in Williamson County, Lee waded into District 65 Republican primary and endorsed Lee Reeves, a recent transplant from Texas with no experience in government. Also running that primary race with the grassroots campaigns of Michelle Foreman, who grew up in Williamson County. Several PACs, including Americans for Prosperity, has spent nearly $1 million combined on Reeves. None of this mega donating from outside of the state would have even been possible if a piece of legislation brought by General Assemblyman Frank Nicely had not been killed in committee before it ever had a chance to even see the light of day. Final story. Incumbent Protection Board shields establishment again. There's this thing called the Tennessee Registry of Election Finance, if you don't know about it. They are all appointed by incumbents. They're all appointed by incumbents. And you know what their job is? Protect incumbents. It's disgusting. What they're doing to conservative grassroots organizations. Tom Hatcher will investigate something without a complaint being filed, yet when somebody sends him a mountain of proof about all this collusion and coordination with the GOP establishment, they just all turn a blind eye. In their July meeting, board member Tom Lawless called an investigation of the two conservative groups, Sumner County and Tennessee Constitutional Republicans. These people get together and eat biscuits. And then decide who they're going to support. And Tom Lawless apparently thinks that your freedom to assemble, your constitutional right, freedom of assembly, that he's going to control that. That little board that apparently has the hand of God in Tennessee elections. He wanted to see if the groups had been operating as PACs. Sumner County Constitutional Republican Chairman Kurt Riley has denied that the group is a PAC. It's not. It's plain to see that it's not. Saying that the complaint lacks substance. TREF called on Attorney General Skrmetti to look into it. Skrmetti looked into it and said, there's nothing damn to see here. But you know why this Incumbent Protection Board, people like Tom Lawless keep digging into this stuff? Because these conservative grassroots are effective against unseating incumbents. It's the same reason I'm maligned in all of the Tennessee broadsheets for being a conservative radical. Because I don't think we should have rampant illegal immigration. I don't think that we should have schools that suck. I don't think we should continue to grow government exponentially. I don't think we need to be handing out corporate welfare. Now that's radical. Well, call me a radical. So TRF called on Tennessee Skrmetti, didn't like the fact that he found nothing, and voted last week for the two groups to show up for a show cause hearing. Boy, if I went up there in front of that group, I'd tell them all to kiss my ass. Every last one of them. However, during the same meeting, here's the kicker, TREF voted to dismiss a case against incumbent Senator John Lundberg they deemed to be factually insufficient. Well, now that he's lost, and Bobby Harshbarger is now the incumbent, maybe the Incumbent Protection Board will start doing its job. Rather than give the complaint opportunity to clarify the claims, the board voted to dismiss the matter entirely after Lawless suggested the complaint process could be weaponized. What are you doing now, Tom? Other than weaponizing this organization, this whole board needs to be changed. You can't have people that are exclusively appointed by incumbents and expect them to do right by the people. The board even discussed threatening the complainant with a letter outlining civil penalties for wasting their time. Your damn time. Your time ain't worth a hoot. That's all the stories. Whew! What a night. I miss working on campaigns. My wife is very glad I don't work on them anymore because I can't help it. I start thinking about it. I want to win. So what are we doing this weekend? For those of you just turning in, why do I care what Brandon does this week? This is how I close out the show every time. What are we doing this weekend? Well, you know what? Last night, I'm just going to back up a little bit. I spent some time in a room with some amazing people. Just amazing people. The folks at my church, volunteers, people up here on Signal Mountain, people all over the county that got behind Michelle RINO, unseating arguably the most powerful, one of the, if not the most powerful, probably behind Cameron Sexton people in the Tennessee House, despite being outspent 10-1, despite the GOP establishment here in Hamilton County unscrupulously and unashamedly getting behind somebody with one of the worst voting records I've ever seen. Saw Weston Wamp at the restaurant right before I left, Hamilton County Mayor, and I talked to him about Patsy's record. I said, I can't believe you support that crap. All the way up and down the board. And the voters rejected it. Michelle ran a great race, worked exceedingly hard, wore out multiple pairs of shoes, connected with people, actually cares about their opinions and their thoughts, maybe a little too much. So anyway, it was a good night. I'm still happy about it. So what are we doing this weekend? I'm going to tell you more about this stuff later, if I get around to it. What am I doing this weekend? Well, I'm about to leave quickly after I do this. I got some stuff to do here, and I'm going to leave to go eat with some of my fraternity brothers, fantastic gentlemen that I love dearly. They're in their 70s and 80s, but they're so wise and so fun. I think as you age, you care less about what other people think, and that makes you funnier. Comedy is the truth, right? And so I always have a good time with those guys. So we're getting together for lunch at Jerry's house today. I can't work all the time, right? We got Michelle's kiddos coming over to the house because she needs a rest. Woman needs a rest. Chris needs a rest. So their cute little tater tots are going to come over and play with our tater tots. And it's going to be a fun weekend. What else we got? Oh, the world's longest yard sale is just right outside my door here on 127, 27, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to go rummage through some crap I don't need. Probably buy a little bit of it. But hopefully my wife doesn't get turned loose. Lord, turn her loose over there. She might come home with a truckload. No, she's pretty good. She's pretty good about it. But she does like to shop a lot more than I do. She loves to shop. What else? I got to kill weeds this weekend. The weeds are kicking my ass. I went camping last week with some friends and my father-in-law out in the woods. It was blissful 5 or 6 days without any cell phone coverage. So I got to kill weeds. I got to pull the biggest ones. I got to spray the rest of them and hope I don't get cancer in the process. But they got to go. They got to go. The woods are trying to take over my house again. Guys, I appreciate you. Oh, update. We are probably, hopefully next week, we're going to launch the Tennessee Conservative new website. I was afraid to do it during all the election stuff. I was just afraid to do it. Now the news cycle will probably calm down. We're going to get in the dregs of summer, or sometimes we have to search around for news to even tell you all about. Not so today. Not so today. And we got general elections still coming up soon. We got to get that stuff going too. But nonetheless, and it's all thanks to the generosity. I mean, I cannot believe we're 4 years into this. Cannot believe it. Can't believe it. People send me checks in the mail, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, because they believe in the mission. And it just, every time I see one of those come in, I'm like, I can't believe people do it. I just can't. You know who you are. And we're starting a subscriber acquisition campaign. Dalton is helping us with that. The same gentleman that helped elect Michelle, just a fantastic, wonderful consultant out of Alabama. And we are going to get together for another Conservative Candidates Academy. And I think it's going to be a 2-man show because Dalton's good. He's damn good. And if you're going to run for office in the next couple of years, I suggest you show up to that training, and I suggest you meet Dalton. If you're good. If you suck, then don't bother us. Don't waste our time if you're not going to work, if you can't raise any money. But if you can do either of those two things, we would love to meet you. So we talked about that last night. So many people to thank on that Michelle RINO campaign. If the Signal Mountain Conservative Club, the people that got out and did stuff, closed circuit transmission to Tom Lawless. You want to investigate us? We meet and eat biscuits too. Call me up there. Do y'all meet and eat biscuits? You're a pack. Anyway, so just so many people to thank. Our church family, my beautiful wife for letting me do as much as I did and give as much as I did. Just all kinds of people. People that I emailed, some of you are helped. Personally emailed you, say, hey, there's a good candidate. Got a chance to replace one of the worst ones. I'm going to be working personally on it. People helped her. If anybody had not done anything, she would not have won. Anybody had not done anything, she would not have won. This was a team effort all the way around. And guys, this is what we got to do in our communities. If we're going to keep Tennessee where it is, and perhaps if we are lucky, move it slightly in a conservative direction, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take our money. It's going to take our time. Guys, hang in there. Hang in there. Now, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful for our state. You should be too. We're getting our sea legs underneath us, and I think only better things are to come. And we have lived to fight another day. Love you guys. Mean it. Brandon Lewis here. Radical conservative. Radical conservative with the TennCon Big 7 weekend update. I appreciate you. God bless you. Have a great weekend. See you soon.